Praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of His Son Yahushua HaMashiach. And yeah, well, that thing clearly doesn't work. All right, I'm sorry, y'all. I was trying to see about that sharing that link. They don't want to cooperate, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to be brief as possible. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. Hold on one second. Let's go to Philippians 3 and 18 before we Lamentations chapter 4. Let's look at something real quick. Listen what he says. He say, for many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the stake of Mashiach, whose end is destruction, whose Elohim is their belly, whose esteem is in their shame, who mind earthly things. It's a lot of people that they're enemies of that stake. Let's go to Lamentations chapter 4. When it say enemies of the state, that means enemies of self-denial and self-sacrifice. See, we got something for you Saturday afternoon. That'll be along those lines. We'll look at Lamentations 4 and 1, I suppose, and work our way down. I was really focusing on something else, but it's all good. It's Lamentations 4 and 1. How is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. Hold on. So when we look at the word dim, the word is amam, and it means to darken or to grow dark, or to be overshadowed or to hide. He said the most fine gold was changed. When we look at fine gold, that's pure gold. The word is kadim. But then we look at changed. And that word is shanat. It means to alter, to be changed. He say the stones of the sanctuary are poured out into the street. Now, when we look at stones, the word is aven again, and that's a stone or a common stone or a sacred object. But it also means strength, firmness, and also a metaphor for being petrified with terror. The word for sanctuary is strictly kadash in this particular verse. Something that's set apart. So it's like the stones that are set apart are poured out in the top of every street. We look at poured out, and that's to spill or to pour out oneself, or to spill forth blood, expend life. That word is shafak. So just work with me right there. And then we got top of every street. That should be the end of it. Street is cuts. We don't want that word. That's kind of simple. And then the top is Rosh, or it's the head top or the chief. So basically we get how gold has become dark, how the fine gold is altered, how the stone that is set apart has spilled its blood out in the top of every street. Remember now, he say people are enemies of the stake, so just pay attention. He say the precious sons of Zion comparable to fine gold, how they are esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter. Now he said they're esteemed as earthen pitchers. When we look at earthen, that's clay pottery or shard or earthen vessel, and the word is caress. Pitchers is nabal, and that's a skin bag, a skin bottle, or basically skin. And they're the work of the hands of the potter. So we look at the precious. This is something that's valued, it's prized, it's weighty, it's rare, it's influential. And the word is yakar. He said they compared it to fine gold. So now when we look at these first two verses, what do we begin to look at? Hold on. Hello?
Hey, bro, you don't know nobody trying to buy some hard, dude.
No.
Man. Hold on. Let me call you back real quick.
Yep. why did this nigga just call? I don't even know who that was. This nigga just called me, asked me, do I know somebody trying to buy some crack? I don't even know who that was. That was definitely weird. Nevertheless, so when we look at how gold has become dim, how the most fine gold is changed, and the set of part stone is poured out into the top of every street, because people are enemies of this stake. Let's see why. First and foremost, let's look at Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, actually 27. And we look at Matthew 27 and verse 45. Because if the gold is weighty and it shines, after we look at Matthew 27 and 45, and we see how the gold became dim, we need to see what makes us gold in the first place. He said, now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And from about the 9th hour Yahushua cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, Elohim, Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there when they heard that said, this man came for Elijah. Straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ruach. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. So the gold is made dim because we see that he's poured darkness on it. But how is Mashiach the gold? We have to sit back and look at how is he the gold. Let's look in Proverbs chapter 8 and then Revelation chapter 3. And see the process of how he's made in the gold and how we end up being made in the gold ourselves. And that most people don't want to be made in the gold nor receive the things of gold because gold is a little weightier. And when we sit back and we look at how he said something of weight or weighty or influential, this is coming in like what the master told us in Matthew 23 and 23 about the weightier matters of the law: judgment, mercy, and faith, and the love of Elohim. When we look at those three matters is what's turned someone into gold, which is what actually caused the gold to be dimmed. Because we're on a short period of time, I'm going to have to paraphrase it versus running all through that. When you look at judgment, the master told you don't judge based off appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Judgment is mishpat in most places, or a sentence, or an execution, or a law. So we talked about this last week. When we talked about this last week, what did we talk about? We talked about how the king, by a sentence, establishes the land. By judgment, establishes the land. But we know that the word for established in that verse is referring to enduring. So we know it says the king, by a sentence, endures the land. So through the enduring of a judgment, or enduring the stake, or enduring the sufferings, or enduring the trials, you find out that you come forth as gold, purified, and you're able to be meat for the master's use. But a lot of people don't want to be meat for the master's use because they don't want to take the trying of the fire. When you take the trying of the fire, this is what it'll pull out: the finite things to receiving the Ruach and being saved, the things that we overlook. Like when we talked about Colossians 3 and 12, about putting on as the elect the bowels of mercy, the compassion, the long suffering, the meekness. But the key thing is the selflessness. To endure the land, you have to relinquish self. That's one of the things we're going to sit back and look at on Shabbat day that I got in my mind, is that the master always put everyone before himself. That is the key. Nevertheless, Proverbs chapter 8. Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 17. And it says, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches. He said, my fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold, and my revenue than choice silver. He said, I lead in the way of righteousness in the midst of the path of judgment, that I may cause those that love me to inherit substance, and I will fill their treasures. So let's look at Revelation 3 and 19, and let's take a son of the master said, and after that, 1 Peter chapter 1. Now this is what Proverbs 8 stating, that wisdom say its revenue, or its payment, or its generation of funds is better than all of these things. You know, the word tell you that wisdom is to be preferred above rubies, and nothing should be able to be compared to it. Revelation chapter 3, verse 19, verse 18 actually. But we'll read verse 14 just because I just feel like reading verse 14. And it says, unto the Malachim of the synagogue of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of Elohim. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou say, I am rich and increase with goods and have need of nothing, and know not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou may be rich, and white raiment, that thou may be clothed, that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thy eyes with eye salve, that thou might see. Now notice that he counseled you to buy of him gold of the tried in the fire. Now you should remember this from Proverbs 23 and 23, if I'm not mistaken. Buy the truth and sell it not. So if you're going to buy gold of him tried in the fire, let's look at something in Matthew 13. Then we'll go to whatever I said. I can't remember. 1 Peter chapter 1. Matthew 13 and verse 44. Again, the kingdom of Shamahim is like unto a treasure hid in a field. The man which when have found, he hide, and for joy thereof go sell all that he have, and buy that field. Remember I told you, Proverbs 23, buy the truth and sell it not. So when you find it, you hide it, and for joy you sell everything you have. Before we read 1 Peter chapter 1, Psalms 119 and 8. Let's see what he means. Sit back, you take it and you hide it. Because you're supposed to look at the word as a precious jewel, as that gold, as that treasure, and you should hide it. And because of the joy therewith of the word, you should relinquish everything that you have. That's why I say people are enemies of the stake of Mashiach, because they're not relinquishing everything that they have. Therefore, the gold cannot be made dim. See, the gold is only going to be made dim by the tribulations and sufferings that the wicked may try to place upon those who are shining. Because, you know, gold shines pretty nicely. Psalms 119 and 8. He said, I will keep thy statutes, O forsake me not utterly. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way, by taking heed thereto according to thy word. With my whole heart have I sought thee, O let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. So if we know that Proverbs is telling us to buy the truth and sell it not, and you deem the word as a great treasure, and you sell everything that you have in the means to attain it, and then you hide it. Well, you buy it, you hide it, and for joy, you relinquish everything that you have. Let's see that in Hebrews chapter 12. Fourth is what we're talking about here. Selling everything that you have. This is why we say people are enemies of the state. Because when they, remember what he told you in the parable of the sower. The seed amongst the stones, they receive the word and annoy with joy. But when persecution or tribulation arise because of the word, by and by they are offended. So what happens is they've bought it. They had joy with it. But when the heat came, when he told you that he counseled you to buy of him gold tried in the fire, you were offended and you didn't want it anymore. Because just like he told you in Luke 14, you hadn't sat down and counted the cost, whether you had sufficient to pay for this gold. Because that's what ends up happening. That's why he says, how has the gold become dim and the fine gold changed? How is the fine gold changed or altered? So then we'll sit back and look at how the fine gold was changed and then changed back, because the stone of the sanctuary is poured out. We looked at that. Poured out means to spill its blood out. We know the master is the chief cornerstone. How did this end up happening? How was he changed and he poured his blood out? How did the fine gold become dim? Hebrews 12 and 2. Looking unto Yahushua, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the stake, despising the shame, and is sat down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds. You have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. That's the one thing I think that we forget about. Like, all the Israelites want to talk about is we the people. That's all they want to talk about. And they think that's the gospel. That is not the good news. If an individual thinks telling somebody they're an Israelite is the good news, is the Besorah of Yahuwah Elohim by way of Yahushua HaMashiach, you haven't encountered a first-class idiot. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell anybody that to their face, over the phone, in any type of venue, a mode of communication that it can be expressed. You are a first-class idiot. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no way in the world knowing you an Israelite is going to save you. We just had a conversation today. You know, you can't teach faith. That's something that's a gift of Elohim. Let me show you that. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. That's a gift from Elohim. You can't teach that. I can't teach you to have faith. I can preach faith to you. I can't teach it to you, though. I'm just going to show you that it's a gift of Elohim. That's all. That's all I'm going to just write this here, man. Verse 4, 1 Corinthians 12 and 4. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Ruach. There are differences of administrations, but the same master. There are diversities of operations, but is the same Elohim which work all in all. But the manifestation of the Ruach is given to every man to profit withal. For one is given by the Ruach the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Ruach, and to another faith by the same Ruach, to another the gifts of healing by the same Ruach. That's a gift that no man can give you. I can't give it to you. Only thing anybody can do is increase your faith by manifesting the faith of Elohim to you, or to encourage you in it. But it can't be taught, because that's something that's inward, that Yah has to open your heart to receive. Like you read about Lydia, I believe, in Acts 16. He has to open your heart to that. That's on him. No man can do that. And I think as Brews, we thinking that knowing you a Hebrew, that's going to open the heart of faith to somebody. And it's not. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really profit, because what ends up happening is you end up esteeming in your flesh, and you don't see how the fine gold becomes dim. We know how the fine gold becomes dim, because it became darker, it became lesser. This man became a man. He said, Father, give me the esteem that I had with you before the world was. He said, now I go back to where I came from. So this is how the fine gold was changed. Let's look at Romans 8 and 1. For we'll get to 1 Peter chapter 1 in a minute. This is how the fine gold is changed. And then we, like I said, we know how to have, we don't have to go read John 19. We know that he is the chief cornerstone. But we'll read in Matthew 21 about the chief cornerstone, and that he poured out his blood in the top of every street. Just like somebody else we know. We might go look at him just for a refreshing sake. Romans chapter 8 though. So this is why we just started off, even though we're not going to go read about people who are enemies of the state. This is why we read that Philippians 3. Because people are, they God is their belly, their desires, their lust. So they don't have that joy to take this gold tried in the fire, to buy that. Because to buy that means that suffering is your desire. You're a companion of it. You joy to do it. He say, for the joy set before him, he endured the state. So it was joyful for him to do this. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Yahushua HaMashiach, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. For the law of the Ruach of life in Yahushua HaMashiach have made me free from the Torah of sin and death. For what the Torah could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim sending his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the Torah might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. So when we see this here, this is how we end up looking at how is the fine gold changed. Because he was a precious thing, and yet he was changed. He became a man. He sacrificed his life. That's the direction we're going to go. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1 now. We have to be willing to sacrifice our life. And when we're looking at we talk about sacrificing our life, but what we're talking about in this is selflessness. the ability to reject self, the ability to reject your own desires and to set something greater than yourself before yourself and seek to accomplish that before you seek to accomplish something for yourself. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. Make it 6. Wherein you are greatly rejoiced, though now for a season, if need be, you are in heaviness through manifold temptations. Now the master, we know this when we go back and look at Matthew 26. He was rejoicing because they sung a hymn. Let's look at that so you can see exactly what Peter's talking about. Matthew 26. For 26 and 30. He said, when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Then saith Yahushua, all you shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Peter answered and said unto them, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. Yahushua said unto him, truly I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter said unto him, though I should die with thee, yet I will not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples. Then come Yahushua with them into a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, sit ye here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with them Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. So now we begin to see exactly what Peter is talking about. That he was greatly rejoicing, but then he said, like for a season, there was heaviness through manifold temptations. Hello? Hello? Let's go to Luke chapter 22. So we see this heaviness that he received through manifold temptations. 22 and what? 42? Let me make sure that's not the verse I want. Luke 22 and verse 28. He said, ye are they which have continued with me in my temptations, and I will appoint you a kingdom as my Father have appointed unto me. Now come back down over here, right here to verse 39. He said they were with him in his temptations. When you look at this here, right, and we'll come to Hebrews chapter 4, because this is how the fine gold became dim. Or the gold becomes dim, and how the fine gold was changed. He said he came out and went as he wont to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that ye enter not into temptation. And when he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. When we look at all the manifold temptations, he had the temptation of when they came out with him with swords and staves. He told Peter, I could have called for 12 legions of Malachim and took them down. That was a temptation to go against what was actually set. This is a temptation of the flesh. His flesh is being tempted. See, we always look at temptation, and we look at temptation from the aspects of our own perspectives, as I told y'all before. That man was not tempted as, oh, look at her, she's fine, I want to go have sex with her. His temptations were the things of him to stay on course of what was written of him and to maintain the faith, to maintain his trust and his hope in his Elohim. You know what I'm saying? And when temptations arise, that's why he say Baruch are those who endure temptation. Because temptation can rear its head in many, many different ways. And the trial or the testing of your faith is more precious than gold. And that even though that, even in the midst of having joy, you might have some heaviness through that, because it can be sorrowful and heavy on you at the time while you're going through it. But he told you, know, that no chastening for present season is joyous but grievous. But those that endure it or exercise thereby will be manifesting the peaceable fruits of righteousness, and should be called sons and not bastards. Because you have to be brought through that to be able to get it, and you're going to have to pour yourself out. See, our problem is just like how he poured out all his blood into the top of every street, we don't want to pour ourselves out and be filled up with him. You got to realize you're going to be crucified with him. So if you crucified with him, you would have poured yourself out. You're pouring out your flesh to be filled with the Ruach. This is what your mind is supposed to be gearing itself toward, but we're not doing that. And then we have to ask ourselves, why are we not pouring ourselves out? Why is it still about self? Why is our God our belly and we're minding after earthly things? So when we say that, meaning it's not an issue of, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. The issue is those things are coming first, and your denial of self is getting put to the back instead of yourself getting put to the back and you being a fan of the state, enjoying the state. That man said that man had joy for that. He had joy for that because of the hope that was set before him. We don't have that joy. That's why when that person, it's like they said, right, everybody want to say they're an Israelite till they start murking you. Not because you're an Israelite, because of what you're supposed to believe in and supposed to profess and supposed to stand for. Then we'll see how many of them want to claim it. It's real easy to claim something when you're not being persecuted for it, when you're not being murked for it, when you're not being incarcerated for it. Because most of these cowards is going to fold. They're not ready to take it to that level. They're not ready to go that far. That's why I say you better sit down and count the cost whether you got sufficient to pay. If you done say you done bought this treasure, you done bought this gold that was tried in the fire, you had enough money to pay for that? He said, are you able to be immersed with the immersion that I'm immersed with? Drink from the cup that I drink from? The men said we are able. Are you able? Because most of our people, if they think it's just knowing you an Israelite, you're not able. You can't do it. It ain't in you. Because you didn't sit down and count the cost. And counting the cost is putting self to the back. To the back. And putting Elohim first. Putting something before you that's greater than you. But we'll deal with that more on Saturday. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 7. So that's what we get at when he say you greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, if you're in heaviness because of manifold temptations. Because the master had manifold temptations. Matter of fact, let's look at Romans 5:1. He had manifold temptations that was in front of him. And these manifold temptations in the trying of your faith will produce certain things. Let's look at it. 5:1. This is where your justification come in at. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have shalom with Elohim through our Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom also we have access by faith into this favor, wherein we stand and rejoice in the hope of the esteem of Elohim. That's what you have to realize, right? He said if we hope for it, if we see it, then we don't hope for it. But if we see not, then with patience we wait for it. So remember, he said how the fine gold is changed. So we wait for that change or the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. Just hold on. And not only so, but we esteem in tribulations also, knowing that tribulations work patience. Notice that as the son was about to do this and drink this cup, he said, you know what? Not your will be done, but my will be done. I mean, not my will be done, but that will be done. And he took esteem in those tribulations. And in John chapter 12, about verse 23, he said, Father, esteem thy name. He said, I've esteemed it and I will esteem it again. This man's name was esteemed through the things that the son suffered. And through the things that the son suffered, he learned obedience. And he was able to bring many sons into esteem by what he suffered. It seems like, as difficult as it may be, and there's a difference now, because we read this in 1 Peter the other day. If you're suffering for doing wrong, then there's no esteem in that, and that's not thankworthy. But if you've done nothing wrong and you take it with patience, Elohim will accept it. The son had done nothing wrong and he suffered that, and the father accepted him. He received him. See, I was going to get to Hebrews 4, right? Where he said that he was tempted like as we are. Well, Hebrews 2, my apologies. He was tempted like as we are, yet without sin. He said the same thing in Hebrews 4 too. It's actually Hebrews 4 specific. He said he was tempted like as we are, yet without sin. So we know that it is possible for us to endure the temptations. You have to look at enduring the temptations the same way that he endured the stake. How he endured looking death in the face. You have to look at that. You have to look at whatever temptations you may suffer in this life the same way he looked at enduring the state as with joy. Because if you endure the temptations, then you receive a crown of life. This is what the book says. Romans 5:3. And not only so, but we esteem in tribulations, knowing that tribulations work patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. Because if you get the patience, then you can experience the mercy of Elohim. And if you experience the mercy of Elohim, then you'll have hope in Elohim. And hope make not ashamed, as he's about to tell us. And hope make not ashamed, because the love of Elohim is shed abroad in our hearts by the Ruach HaKodesh, which is given unto us. For when we were yet without strength, in due time, Mashiach died for the ungodly. So we have to keep that in mind when you sit back and you look at that enduring the tribulations will work your patience. Your patience, the book tells you continually to wait on Yahuwah. When you wait on Yahuwah, this will give you hope. And that hope will not make you ashamed. Why won't that hope make you ashamed? Because I told you I see you something about that storm. Come over here to 1 Peter chapter. No. Isaiah 28. We hold 1 Peter chapter 1. Isaiah 28 and then Matthew 21. I'm going to try to about, 15 minutes to take me about 8:38. This is about a 45-minute run, y'all. Just a 45-minute run. Isaiah 28 and about 11. Latubbies. Hey, man. Hey, Latubbies. That's your shirt? You got to take it to your mommy? Very well, then. Carry on, sir. 28 and 16. Say, therefore, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, I lay on Zion a foundation, a stone. Listen what it said. A tried stone. A tried stone. A precious cornerstone. A sure foundation. He that believes shall not make haste. But let's look at some of those words for that. He said it's a tried stone. He said it's a sure foundation. When we look at tried, that word is simply bokan, and it's testing, it's tried. It's something that's been a trial. The stone has been tried. We look at precious, and it's probably going to be another word we used to. And that's that same word, Yakar, what we looked at earlier. It's weighty, it's rare, it's influential. It's a precious cornerstone, and he that believes shall not make haste. Peter says that where it says he will not make ashamed. The word is kush, and it literally means to show haste or to act quickly. See, sometimes when you sit back and you look at those that believe will wait. You'll put your trust in Elohim that he'll fulfill his promise. See, when we sit back and we look at a lot of people who put their trust in Elohim or claim that they have, they don't wait. So when we look at this as a tried stone, let's look at Matthew 21 and see how he tried the stone. And how it was a weighty and influential stone. Matthew chapter 21, verse 42. Yahushua saith unto them, did you never read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same has become the head of the corner? This is Yahuwah's doing, and is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of Elohim shall be taken from you and given to a nation, bringing forth the fruits thereof. Whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken, but whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. And when the chief priests and Pharisees heard this parable, they perceived that he spake of them. But when they sought to lay hands on him, they feared the multitude, because they took him for a prophet. Now when we look at, I didn't read all the parables, right? When you look at the parable of the husbandman in verse 33. Hold on. Hello? Hello? Nevertheless, when you look at the parable of the husbandman in this Matthew 21, they minded earthly things. They wanted the inheritance of the king, of the son. And they were willing to kill, to take it, was for the householder, I should say. And they wanted to seize on that inheritance. Now, that son is sitting here letting it be known that he didn't esteem these earthly things, as we've been looking at. He endured the state because it was joyful for him to sacrifice himself. that he didn't put his desires and his wants above what needed to be done. Most people, they're not going to do that. Now, when we sit back and he said that this stone, which they have rejected, because this stone has to be tried. Now, again, I read you verse 2. It say the precious sons of Zion are comparable to fine gold, and how they're esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter. He said they're comparable to fine gold. Now, again, it said, how is the most fine gold changed? So we have to look at how the sons of Zion are comparable to fine gold, and then how they're but esteemed as earthen pitchers and be the works of the hands of the potter. I guess as we're going to reconcile this here, because we're looking at the trying of your faith as being more precious than gold. Let's finish that 1 Peter chapter 1. And we in verse 7. The trial of your faith, being more precious than of gold that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto the praise, honor, and esteem at the appearing of Yahushua HaMashiach. Now we know the master is that cornerstone that they rejected, and he was tried, and he's a precious stone, or he's weighty, or he's influential. So weightier matters of the law is judgment, mercy, and faith. These are things that the elect will exhibit. If you're chosen, you would exhibit judgment, you would exhibit mercy, and you would exhibit faith, because that's the pathway that's decided for you. Psalms 37 and 27 said the steps of a good man are ordered by Yahuwah. If you sit back and you look at it, if you're a good man, he's going to order your steps straight to him. He's going to direct you straight to him. A lot of people look at their pathway. If y'all don't know, make sure that's the right verse now. Psalms 37 and 27. If you want to know if somebody chosen, y'all should be direct. Y'all ain't finna direct you to no foolishness. He's not going to direct you to stupidity, and he's certainly not going to direct you to sin. It's not 27. That's my apologies. It's 23. The steps of a good man are ordered by Yahuwah, and he delight in his way. He says, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. The way, the rock, the way to the highest that covers sins. He delights in those who walk in the pathway to his son. And those who are chosen will walk in. He say, no man can come to the Father but by me. You can't get to that way no other way. And it's Yahuwah that's directing people to that way. And it's Yahuwah that directs people away from that way in the same token. Now, let's sit back and look at how these precious sons are comparable to fine gold, and how the fine gold is changed. Because we already talked about how he poured out his blood in the top of every street. Because that word for sanctuary is Kadesh. We already read how this man said he Kadesh in Revelation chapter 3. He said he sanctified himself by the truth, that we might sanctify ourselves by the truth. That's what he said in John 17 and 19. He said, sanctify them by thy truth, thy word is true. And I sanctify myself by the truth, that they might sanctify themselves by the truth. That man set himself apart up on that stake and poured out his blood in the top of every street, just like Abner. Just like Abner in 2 Samuel chapter 3. Just like him. Just like him. You have to acknowledge that. You have to understand that. If you're going to be Kadesh, you have to be willing to pour out your blood in the top of every street, which means you're going to have to crucify yourself with him. You're going to have to be selfless. It's a lot of reasons why. I told y'all before, pride is the biggest reason why people don't receive the gift of the Ruach, and the second one is selfishness. Because your Elohim is selfless. So if you're selfish, there's no way you're going to receive a selfless spirit. That's just not going to happen. Because now you're asking him to go contrary to himself. And he's not going to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? See, we just be stuck on, well, keep the Sabbath. I don't sin, but it's your heart. Why we talked about this last week. He said, I'm going to take out that heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. It's your heart. It's your mind. That's why he says you take on the mind of Mashiach. You need another mind. You need another heart. You need another spirit to allow you to receive what you seek after, which is everlasting life. Nevertheless, Psalms 82 and 5. And then John 10 and 30. Make it verse 6, because we got the roll. I'm almost at my time limit. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. He just sat back and told you are. He said the precious sons of Zion are comparable to fine gold. Well, the master is the fine gold. And he told you that you ought to buy gold of him tried in the fire, that you ought to buy a piece of him, because he is the word. Remember, buy the truth and sell it not. The truth is a mot. The master said in John 14:6, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. He said you ought to buy him. He the fine gold you ought to purchase. And he purchased you with his own blood. All he asking you just to buy a little bit of him. We don't be wanting to do that though. John 10:30. He said you comparable. Let's look at it. We get the right word for comparable. He said you comparable to fine gold. When we look at the word comparable, the word is salah, and it means to weigh or to compare or to be weighed or suspended in the balance. You know, you compare something to see if it's alike. So when you're looking at getting weighed in the balance, this will take you to Paul's statement in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 13 to be exact, to examine yourselves whether you be of the faith, lest you be a reprobate. Because you're going to be weighed in the balance. You're going to be weighed to see do you line up with Mashiach or not. Did you do what Jacob did and put on the firstborn to get the blessing? You're going to be weighed. And remember, we talked about this last week too. A false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah. A perfect weight and a perfect balance is what he said you ought to have according to Deuteronomy 25. According to the law, that's what you're supposed to have. John 10:30. I and my Father are one. Then the Yahudim took up stones again to stone him. Yahushua answered them, many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me? The Yahudim answered him, saying, for a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, because thou, being a man, make thyself Elohim. Yahushua answered, is it not written in your Torah, I said, ye are gods? If he called them gods, under whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken. The word can't be broken. If he said that, he said he compare you will be comparable to fine gold. Say the precious sons of Zion are comparable to fine gold, and they're esteemed as earth and pitches. He said you die like men. So we need to look at something. Jeremiah 18. After Jeremiah 18, 2 Timothy chapter 2. Jeremiah 18 and 1. Jeremiah 18 and 1. Jeremiah 18 and 1. The word of Yahuwah came to Jeremiah from Yahuwah, saying, arise and go down to the potter's house, and I will cause thee to hear my words. And I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he made of the clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again another vessel, as it seemed good to the potter to make it. Then the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, O house of Yasharal, cannot I do with you as this potter, saith Yahuwah? Behold, as this clay is in this potter's hand, so are you in my hand. So he's telling you in this particular passage that he can craft you and create you any way that he wants. Now, one, he said that the clay was marred. Hold on. Let me pull the word up for you. This is the same word that's used more than likely, if I'm not mistaken, in Isaiah 52. He said that clay was marred in the hand of the potter. That word marred is shakath, and it's to destroy or to corrupt or to ruin or to decay, to batter, also to perish. Now when we look at that, this is telling us about how he took the master, killed him, and created him again, resurrected him from the dead, but resurrected him in a better state than what he was when he fashioned him the first time, to show you that you're the work of his hands. This also lets us know that if he can do the same thing with us, if we choose to die, that he can change us, he can make us, because we're supposed to be comparable to this fine gold that is changed. Well, we sit back and know that the master came into the grave one way and came out another. Romans chapter 1. We'll get to 2 Timothy chapter 2 in a moment. Romans 1 and 3. We'll make it Romans 1 and 1. And after we look at Romans 1 and 1, we'll go to 2 Timothy chapter 2, 1 John chapter 3, and then 1 Corinthians 15. And then we'll stop. Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of Elohim, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the Kadesh scriptures concerning his son, Yahushua HaMashiach, our master, which was made of the seed of Daud according to the flesh, and declared to be the son of Elohim with power according to the Ruach of Kadesh by the resurrection of the dead. Notice, he said how the fine gold is changed after the gold has become dim. Notice how it was changed. How did he change it? Because he marred that clay. He marred that clay and then remade it. He remade it by the Ruach HaKadosh and the resurrection of the dead, which is taking you what your immersion is supposed to have you considering, that you were marred, that you were ruined, that you were destroyed, that you perished, that you were spoiled. But that when you came up, that you were changed and you were made pure, that you were made immortal, that you had put on the essence and power of the living Elohim, that you could consider to be a precious fine gold and esteem, but in an earthen pitcher or in a physical fleshly body. Yet the living Elohim dwells in you until the time of your redemption. But we don't think about that. That's not in our brain because we're not taking on what it said, that for the joy set before him. We don't take it as joy to die like he did. Nevertheless, 2 Timothy chapter 2. Second Timothy chapter 2 verse 19. Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure. That's going back to what we looked at in Isaiah 28. It's a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. Those that believe do not move hastily. That goes back to what we read in Romans 5. When you esteem in your tribulations, and your tribulations work patience, and your patience experience, and your experience hope, and hope make not ashamed. Then tribulations humble you, and it causes you to wait on Elohim. If you look at, that's another instance of people who are not chosen, who don't believe because they move too fast. If you believe on Elohim, then you will not move hastily. That's what the book said. That's not what I said. That's what the book says. The book says he that believes will not move hastily. They will wait on Yahuwah. The book tells you repeatedly, wait on Yah, wait on Yah, wait on Yah. And what do we see? Majority of our people, they not trying to, I ain't waiting on such and such. We sitting around here waiting. That's how I know you don't believe, which means I know you weren't sanctified by the Ruach and had belief in the truth from the beginning. Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal, the master know them that are his, and let everyone that name the name of Mashiach depart from iniquity. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and earth, some to honor and some to dishonor. And if a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, prepared unto every good work. Let yourself become a vessel of gold. But hold on, let me what he say after this, because we got to do it. Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, love, shalom with them that call it the master out of a pure heart. And that's what they're trying to gold. That's how you become fine gold. This is how the precious sons of Zion are comparable to fine gold because of this. 1 John 3:1. Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of Elohim. Therefore the world know us not, because it knew him not. Beloved, now we are the sons of Elohim, if doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall see him, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Every man that have this hope in him purify himself, even as he is pure. So then this is how you're comparable to the fine gold. The master was taken to the fire and came out pure, came out clean. He was able to give esteem to the living Elohim. Therefore, when we look at that, if we follow this same pattern, we can be able to do the same things and to be changed and to become like him. To take on his essence, to take on his. That's why he say the precious sons of Zion. He say the trial of your faith is more precious than gold. This man say, little children, it's your father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. He say precious in his eyesight is the death of all his Kadeshim. Those that are his are very precious in his eyesight, and he compares you to his son. Because if you put on the Ruach HaKodesh, if you put on Yahushua HaMashiach, you are his son. Because why? You had already been made dim. That stone, that set apart individual had already poured out his blood in the street. Consider 1 Corinthians chapter 15. 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 51. Verse 50. Matter of fact, let's make it 47. The first man is of the earth, earthy, and the second man is the master from Shamahim. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy, and as the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery: we shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. So when we sit back and we look at how the fine gold is changed, and you're esteemed as the son of Elohim while you're in this flesh, but he say, but brethren, those that die in Mashiach shall rise first, and the rest of us shall come to meet him in the air, and we shall be changed. Then we shall be as the most fine gold changed. But hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. We stop for this moment in time.